is 7 points. And I know some of it is hard to read, so I'll just read the headlines. One is definition, if we start on the bottom left, definition of what is considered missing. Secondly, reporting mechanism. Thirdly, investigation. Fourth, data management. Fifth, entry and exit registration. Sixth is public notification. And 7 is prevention and awareness. I will not go into all of them because otherwise we'll be here until tomorrow. But let me just highlight a few of these things. The reason why we have definition at the beginning as part of the response is that we need to understand what we actually mean by missing. Are we talking about a child that's running away, a child that is lost, a child that has wandered, a child that's been abducted or kidnapped? Are we talking about migration? Are we talking about war-torn areas? What do we mean by missing? So the first thing that we do when we work with countries to build a comprehensive response is understanding what are the concerns related to this, what are the definitions, so that everybody that's involved in protecting children understands what we mean, so we all are on the same page. So if we say missing is anyone under the age of 18 whose whereabouts are unknown, we already know what we're talking about. And then we can talk about the variations of it. How do we respond to a runaway? What does that look like? Is there a law that allows a child to walk out of the house and not receive a fine? Or what is the difference between abduction and kidnapping? In certain countries, there are differences. So we need to understand that to be able to build that response. Once we understand definition, we then follow through the other 6 components. Reporting mechanism, similar to what Missing Children Kenya already has in place, is a really good toll-free number that everybody knows of how to call in. What do I do when my child is missing, or I think my child is missing? Then you go really into the investigation and data management. That's more for law enforcement. The whole purpose of these 7 points is that we collaborate, we coordinate together. This is not one entity or one stakeholder. It is law enforcement, government, private sector, NGOs, social services, healthcare, educators. All of us have a role to play in making sure that these 7 components are part of that comprehensive response, because we all have expertise that can combine this. And then we have a stronger chance to make sure that every child deserves a safe environment to grow up in, can explore the beautiful world that we do have, but in a safe way, because they know there's people like us who are protecting them. So for us, the biggest important thing is that it's always about collaboration. It is making sure that we bring all of the stakeholders together and focus and highlight each and every one stakeholder's expertise, because they collaborate together and they're not competitive. They're more about actually complementing each other. So this is really what I wanted to share today with you, to give you an idea of what we work with when we work with countries to build their capacity on missing children. And this is something that we've been working on with Missing Children Kenya, as well as Moto News and others over the last few years, to make sure that Kenya has and can build a comprehensive response. And it's certainly on its way. And you've already got a lot of these components in there, which is fantastic. And it's making sure that they continue and that we can make them stronger over years and years and years. This is not something that you build in 1 year or 2. It's something that you build to make sure that actually you're changing people's perception and people's response to this issue, that then has a long-lasting effect for decades. So this is available on our website, icmec.org. You can download it. It gives you more details on each of the components. And otherwise, I'm happy to take questions, or also, feel free to email or call, what makes most sense. So again, thank you for listening, and thank you, Mariana and Moto News, for putting this together.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Jennifer, on your end, we'll be guiding the Q&A session. I see someone raised their hand. Mumbi, you can give access to allow to talk.
Yes, go ahead, Mumbi.
Oh no, sorry. I probably just did that, Kimakosa. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Well, we've had you. It's okay. So, Caroline, maybe also a little bit more to enlighten the participants on today's initiative driven by ICMEC with the football teams across the world. Maybe you can share a little bit about that as we wait for other questions or comments.
Thank you. And it's been a whirlwind, so I somehow forgot to completely mention that. But yes, as you said, today is May 25, and it's International Missing Children's Day. And we were fortunate enough to partner with the European Club Association, as well as FIFA, and the Italian club AS Roma, to be able to build a global campaign where we created videos of missing children, where then over 200 clubs are now tweeting as we speak to their followers of those videos, in the hopes that someone will recognize those missing children in the videos. We've already got a lot of responses. Certainly a few clubs, I think the main clubs in Kenya have tweeted the actual videos for Kenya. We've had Manchester United, Chelsea, Bayern Munich also tweet about this. FIFA has tweeted about it. If you are on Twitter, feel free to share those videos, tweeted, as well as the Twitter information. Certainly now that Latin America is waking up, we're getting Brazil as well as Argentina on board, which is fantastic. And honestly, this is new to us. It's the first year we're doing it. So I'm monitoring as we speak to sort of see what the outcome will be. But the idea is to build awareness around the issue, but also in the hopes that we can reunite missing children with their loved ones. So I thank especially also Mariana for sending us missing children photos for Kenya, that we can then build a video specifically for Kenya. And we've already gotten a lot of other requests across Africa to see what we can do. So which is fantastic.
Thank you. So as we progress, if at all any of the attendees has a question, at the bottom you'll see on the menu link next to your audio and video, there's participants and Q&A. You can fill your question in there. And as we proceed, if Caroline or any other upcoming speaker has seen their question, they'll be able to give a response. But thank you so much, Caroline, and keep up the good work that you're doing at ICMEC. Next up, I'm going to give an opportunity to Pauline Amakua, and I'll give a little brief profile about her as she comes on to talk also about her area and how it relates to missing children. Pauline Amakua is the director of Mali Autism Awareness Center. She's the mother of a 6-year-old boy on the autism spectrum, a Tomatis Level 1 practitioner. She's a trained behavioral analysis, and she's also a trained TV and film producer. She founded Mali Autism Awareness, which is a community-based organization that endeavors to create awareness on the autism spectrum in Kenya. One of the challenges that we have as Missing Child Kenya is children with developmental challenges, or differently able children and their vulnerability when they go missing. So I'll welcome Pauline Amakua to take it over from here. Welcome, Pauline.
Hi, Marianne. Thank you for
for this opportunity. Hi, everyone. So, because of the few minutes we've been given, I'll try to just go through everything. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Well, so the autism spectrum presents the families and even the fast responders, because first thing is the response you get from these children is not the same as the other children, because most of them cannot be able to communicate well or respond well to the rescuers. So I'll go and explain first what autism is. Before my child got the diagnosis for autism, honestly, as much as I was in the journalism field, I had no idea what autism was. So I'll not assume that everyone here knows what autism is. So autism is derived from the Greek word autos, and it means self-extreme loneliness. And an autistic individual has the character of mild to severe or very poor communication skills, very poor eyesight, and some of them have disabilities. Well, they can't walk, and other things. So autism is a spectrum disorder. A spectrum means that no one child is the same as the other. Every case is very special and unique. So this presents also another challenge when you're dealing with the different individuals, be it children or adults, because in this case, we also have autistic adults. So what do you do when you are presenting with a case of dealing with a missing or found autistic individual? I'll give a few pointers that can help us in this case, and I'll just read it out to you, and maybe we can explain more if anyone has a question. And so the first thing that you will do is how do you plan to approach the individual who is autistic? How do you plan to approach them? And the first thing is to approach them from the front. Never ever approach an autistic individual from the back, because that way they're going to run away and they're going to sense danger. So because the initial issue here is social interaction and eye contact, so you have to put a lot of effort in trying to get eye contact. Deal with them at their own level. The second point is you have to maintain their level. If it's a child, do everything that you can do. If you need to go down on the knees, kneel down. If it's an adult, you have to maintain your cool. The fact that they cannot communicate or they cannot speak does not mean that there's no other way that you can, if it's a child, then do so. Everything that you can do if you need to go down on the knees. So you have to know to be able to find a way of communicating with them effectively. So you have to maintain your cool, avoid the use of restraint, because this will present another case altogether, and give the individual space. Give them space to calm down, because they don't like being touched. So just give them the individual space. If there's no harm presenting itself, give them space to relax. Try as much as possible to keep their attention and to keep their eye contact. And to bring them closer to you, you have to try to interact with them. And this way you can hold out a water bottle, maybe a phone, snacks, food, just to be able to maintain that communication. And once you're able to maintain that communication, then you can look around. Do they have a tag, a name tag? Do they have a phone? If they're able to communicate, is there someone you can call immediately, a parent or a guardian? So you have to be able to know if they don't. And if they don't have, what do you do? So what you do is give them something that they can interact, find a way to communicate, whether it's through drawings, whether it's through that phone, find a way to communicate to these individuals so that you can be able to get enough information from them. And avoid physical contact at all costs. And if you really must, in case you're looking for this, the communication tools, the contact IDs, then make sure the individual is relaxed. Contact the parents or guardian immediately to be able to locate them, to be able to get them back to their safe ground and safe spaces. Because most of these, and most of the time, when these children are lost, you have to look at the fact that they are not scared. They are not scared of heights. They are not scared of fire. They don't have that sense of fear, that sense of danger. So this is an issue presenting itself also. But how do you identify a child or an individual on the spectrum from a distance? Now we are thinking of maybe you're a fast responder and you approach them. How do you identify this person? Because from a distance, if you're trying to get someone, you will not know. Most of them don't show, it's not written on face, they don't show it. So how do you identify them? Some of them will have headphones like this, and we call them noise rationing, noise blocking headphones. And some of them will hold their ears, hold their eyes, trying to make everything clear. You'll notice that they have, they're screaming. There's a lot of running. If it's on a highway, they're not scared of anything. They're running to and fro. So just before you approach them, you have to identify exactly the kind of person you're dealing with. And what can we do as a community to help these individuals? And that is where Mali Autism Awareness Center comes in, with creating awareness. That is our core business, to create awareness of autism, how to identify an autism individual,
Hello.
how to approach them. Yes, hello? Can you hear me? Okay. How to approach the individual, and also now a few pointers just on training. We need to make sure that our law enforcers and the first responders are trained on how to handle the special people in the society. They are differently able people in the society. It's really important. We need to make sure that there's enough security in our society. There's a CCTV camera. There are child minders in the play areas, in the police stations, in theaters, in the malls. Just to be able to create safe spaces for these individuals, so that if an emergency presents itself, then there's someone who's readily available. And this is a challenge that we, as the parents of the children on the spectrum, or even minders of the special people in the society, have a problem with. There's not so many people talk about this, and it's becoming an issue, especially on the case of missing children. So what I would like to do is, what we can do is train the law enforcers, ensure the children on the spectrum, this is now for the child minders and the parents, also always have a tag or a means to identify them. It's easier to create awareness in our societies and just secure our homes. Next is a question. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you very much, Pauline. Thank you for sharing your insights and your advice on dealing with children with regard to the autism spectrum when they are either lost or when they go missing and we encounter them. I can see questions are still coming up on the Q&A. And what I would advise is you can keep asking your questions. Some of the questions may have come a little bit earlier in anticipation of some of the speakers that we expect. So I would also encourage all our speakers today to keep checking down on the Q&A. If there is a question that is related to you, please respond. And when you reply, you type the answer, and all of us can be able to see the responses and be able to guide each other. If there are no questions for polling as we proceed and the rest still keep fielding their questions, I will move on to our next speaker. Thank you very much, Pauline, and well done in your sphere of influence. I'll move on to our next speaker, and our next speaker is a gentleman that I've had the pleasure of meeting online recently and learning more about what they do. I am sure within our webinar today, we have very many Rotarians, and I can see Angela Masheru, you are a Rotarian. So he's going to talk more about the Rotary and what they do in relation to human trafficking, which is closely related to missing children. So a brief bio about our next panelist, Dev Mccleary. He's the global chairman for Rotary Action Group Against Slavery, which is abbreviated as RAGAS, and he's also the founder of NHT, Human Trafficking Now, and the past president of Roswell Rotary. He's a small business owner from Roswell, Georgia, and father, husband, a son with a heart for making a difference in other people's lives. Within third world countries, so to speak, but also across communities that are very developed. And so he started looking out at what to do, how we can help to stop this. And knowing the influence and vastness of the Rotary, which embraces about 34,000 clubs and about 1.2 million members worldwide, he looked at how this can collectively become one force. And so over the years, he has done his work through the Rotary Club, looking at working against slavery, and he was appointed the worldwide vice chair of Rotarians Against Slavery, with a mission to engage 1.2 million Rotarians and 34,000 clubs in over 200 countries to take on the issues of ending modern-day slavery. So Dev Mccleary, welcome. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Mariana. And just for you all to know that Mariana accepted our coordinator's position for our action group in her region. So we thank you for that. And thank you for the amazing work that you do. And just a quick note on NCMEC, you all were there in the beginning with us when John Walsh spoke to one of our leadership meetings back in 2012-13 as we began to launch the initiative of human trafficking. So thanks for the work you do as well. I'm going to see if I can share my screen here real quick. Just 1 second. One second.
Jennifer, are you able to enable Dev to share his screen?
Let me just check here.
He's able to do it.
All right,
Okay,
let's see.
fantastic.
It's not letting me, but that's okay. I can go on without it. But again, thanks for having me today. And just a little bit about my story. As I began, as Mariana mentioned, I was at a conference in Atlanta, Georgia, and the whole conference was focused on the issue of human trafficking. And I did not have any idea that it happened. I thought maybe it was a third world country, but for sure not in Atlanta. Well, I met a girl at the conference named Melissa through the CNN Freedom Project, and she was trafficked out of my hometown of Roswell, Georgia, and had her speak at one of our Rotary meetings when I was president in 2012. And it turns out that one of our members used to babysit her. She used to babysit one of our members' kids when she was 12 years old. So then it wasn't a problem for, third world country. It happens in every community in the world. It's the one issue, probably the biggest human rights violation in the history of the world. And so I thought, why not Rotary engaging in this issue? So a little background on Rotary. We have, as Mariana mentioned a little bit, but we have 1.2 million Rotarians, 34,000 clubs that are in 200 different countries that meet once a week. And so we're in every community, and we're on the verge of eradicating the issue of polio, which we've been working on for several years. And so now the issue of human trafficking is something that we deeply care about and deeply want to engage in. And so the great thing about Rotary is that we have the business leaders, we have the politicians, we have the educators, we have all those in our club. And again, we're in every community. And even though we are an international organization, we're community-based. So, for instance, if an organization in a small community wants to get engaged, then we're there to help them get engaged. We don't actually do the work, but we support the work. And because the vast reach that we have, the issue of human trafficking has become on Rotary International's radar. As a matter of fact, in 2017 in Atlanta, we had a huge candlelight vigil with 14,000 people from 160 countries in downtown Atlanta. And we had a panel with actor Ashton Kutcher, Senator Bob Corker, who introduced the End Modern Slavery Act, and Gary Haugen, the founder of International Justice Mission, was at our conference. And it really ignited a fire under Rotary. And we now have members of our Rotary Action Group Against Slavery in 62 countries. And part of what we do as an organization is we're the hub for Rotary when it relates to human trafficking and modern day slavery. And we have coordinators all over the world. Like I said, in the 62 countries, we just recently appointed a coordinator in South America that started what we call an Interact group. So Interact is high school age kids that are engaged in different issues within Rotary. And so we started in Quito, Ecuador, an Interact club that deals just with slavery. So it's high school kids engaged in not only their peer groups, but also their parents and other people. So we're excited to see that momentum grow. And we, as an action group, like I said, we have people in every community in the world. And some of the things that we've really been focused on is education awareness. So if we can educate our young kids on the issue of human trafficking, we just received a large grant in California to educate our kids on the issue of human trafficking. And we've educated 56,000 children in California. We plan on rolling that model out across the world. The other few areas that Rotary has been working very closely with is legislation. We work quite closely with Senator Bob Corker in the U.S. Senate back about 3 or 4 years ago when they introduced the End Modern Slavery Act, which created a global fund of $1.5 billion to eradicate slavery around the world. And Rotary was able to activate their network to get 13 senators to co-sponsor that legislation. The other thing that we've been working very closely with is the business community. We hosted a summit in Atlanta back in 2018. We had 60 global corporations. We had Coke, Delta, UPS, Ronstadt, International Hotel Group, and several others give case studies about how they address the issue of human trafficking. And so from that, we had another 16 corporations step up and begin to educate their employees. Recently, we hosted a summit in Washington, D.C., where we had not only amazing corporations telling their story about how they can engage other corporations, but also we had government leaders. It was the first time we had a group of government leaders to include the defense contractors, or the Department of Defense, Justice Department. Every sector of the government was there, along with the private sector. And the one thing that I think Rotary is able to do is we're able to get that cross-section of business leaders, government leaders, NGOs all together. And when it comes to, because we're non-political, non-religious, and so we're able to get in other areas that some organizations may not be able to. For instance, in school systems, particularly in the United States, where sometimes it's hard for an amazing faith-based organization that does terrific work to get in there. Rotary is able to kind of leverage their influence within that community because, like I said, we have law enforcement, educators, in all our club. The other thing that we've been very involved in is sporting events. We've had a task force at the last 3 Super Bowls in the U.S. We work with an organization called It's Not a Penalty, which is a global organization that fights against human trafficking in every sporting event in the world, including FIFA and Olympics and things like that. So we've been able to connect them. And the great thing, like I said, we are in every community. So when somebody reaches out to me and says, we're doing an event or we're doing a particular project in a particular country, we can usually connect them. The other thing that they were able to do is global grants, which helps fund certain organizations based on their work. And so Rotary has quite a successful foundation that we're able to get global grants to help with that. And the other thing I'll say about Rotary too is we're consistent because we've been around 110 years. And again, I think we're the only organization that actually meets weekly in 34,000 clubs in over 200 countries. So we have an opportunity to help organizations, to help spread the word. The other thing we have is every year we have an international convention, which is in a different place in the world every year. And so this year was going to be in Hawaii. Unfortunately, that got canceled, but we're going to do a virtual breakout. And my breakout session for the convention was on emerging leaders within Rotary. So we were going to get the youth, the Rotaract, the Interact. And we actually had a survivor that got it, went through one of our program that we support, got her job training, and she ended up getting a job with Essentia. And then now they're paying for her to go to school, college in Georgia. And so we're going to have her on the panel. So I'll send out that information when we're doing that virtual breakout. But lastly, I'll just say the other program that we support that we're really excited about, which is the model now, but it's going to be scalable, not just to the U.S., but to the world. But there's a group we work with in Atlanta called Wellspring Living, and they have a 10-week course. Once the girls, survivors, go through therapy and are ready, they take a 10-week course on job training. And then through that, they get internships. And Delta, Coke, UPS, International Hotel Group, and about 12 other corporations signed up for this organization. And so, as you all know, if a girl gets rescued and is a survivor, if she doesn't have a means to make a living, then she ends up back into the situation again. And so what's exciting about that is Delta, for instance, their CEO actually took 2 of the survivors out to lunch to really find out their story without anybody with them. And he was so sold on the issue that he took on the program. They're now within their company. And we have a law firm in Atlanta that's doing the same thing. And the comments they made inspires their entire company, not just helps the survivors, but inspires their entire company. So we're excited about that. And I think that Rotary is just here to help, to facilitate in every community in the world, and anything that we can do. We're here for you. And thank you, Mariana, for inviting me, including me. And thank you for being part of our action group. And we're also looking for coordinators around the world. We're really trying to create as many coordinators as we can to spread that message of hope of Rotary and what we can do to help in the issue. And again, missing kids, as you know, Caroline, 1.4 kids run away and they're missing. And so it's important. And I'll just close with this. The thing is that for me, I didn't think, not only did it didn't happen in my community, but I didn't really believe it. But once I did, I began to share that story with others. And once they hear the story of these kids and women and men and boys, then they say, yeah, I want to help. How can I help? And so Rotary's just here to help and use their vast network to do that. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dev. Thank you, Dev, from the Rotary Action Group Against Slavery. Just to reiterate, today's theme is a harmonized response to protect vulnerable, missing and lost and found or displaced children. And so as we have been going on, you may notice with each speaker, we are having a discussion or a presentation on what are the current multi-sectoral efforts and interagency collaboration towards the plight of missing children. So to me, what is coming out strongly is all of us in our different components, we are doing amazing work, and it's about time we all came to the table and saw how best we can coordinate to become a much stronger force, because I think together we can do more. If there are any questions for Dev, for those who have joined the conference as we are going on, it is a webinar mode, and so the questions are restricted to the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen next to your video and audio. Please field your questions, and the panelists will be able to look at them and type their answers or answer live if time allows us as we progress within our webinar today. Thank you, Dev. Coming up on the list of the panelists, I'm going to look at a lady called Stacy. Stacy is from an organization abbreviated as HEART, and it deals with trafficking. The full name of our organization is Awareness Against Human Trafficking, HEART Kenya. She served as a project officer in case management at HEART. She oversaw the rescue, support, and reintegration of victims of human trafficking for 2 years, and she has since been elevated to the position of head of protection, where she oversees the overall formulation and implementation of victim protection services. Stacy is a highly skilled and dedicated communication and mental health professional. She's got experience in communication and mental health with a degree in communication from Daystar, and is currently completing her master's in clinical psychology at the United States International University. Stacy from HEART, you're welcome.
Thank you, Marianne. Awareness Against Human Trafficking, HEART, as it's abbreviated, was formed in 2010 with a vision to see a world free from trafficking of persons. HEART decided to focus on the subject of human trafficking because despite the fact that Kenya is one of the main hubs of trafficking in Africa, there are no organizations exclusively focusing on addressing the issue. HEART uses the United Nations 4 Ps of prevention, prosecution, policy, and partnership in its